Welcome back to the Leadership Blueprints, everybody. We got a gift for you today. A gentleman that came into my life almost 20 years ago is in the Mount Rushmore, my Mount Rushmore of entrepreneurs and businessmen. He is the chairman and CEO of both ICONA Resorts and Achristavest Developers. Eustace Mita, welcome to the show.
Thank you, BJ. It's great to be here with you once again. So
It's
I appreciate the time.
I've been looking forward to this one, Use. We start every show. I gave it away that you're in the hospitality resort business and the residential construction business, but that's just scratching the surface of who you are, what you've done in your career. Talk to us about what Icona and Achristavest are and what you do there right now, and then we'll go back in time through the entrepreneurial journey of Eustace Mita's life.
No, I think that's great. So Icona right now happens to be the largest brand, privately owned brand in the state of New Jersey. And we have 8 hotels now. And our name is our mission. If you, and I have on my shirt here, if you cover the A, it says icon. And if you look in Wikipedia, an icon is a sacred place, person, or thing. If you cover the icon, there's an A there, and the A stands for aloha. Because from the time I had my honeymoon in Hawaii, I realized the height of hospitality really comes from Hawaii and the aloha spirit.
Hmm.
So taken together, we say Icona. Our hotels are sacred places where we want our guests to have a heavenly experience and feel our warmth, welcome, and our love.
Hmm.
So that's Icona. And we also have the Mahalo brand, we call it. Mahalo is more of a select service brand, meaning there's really no food and beverage. It's a grab and go type of operation. Be similar to your, just to give you a fast background, there's really 4 hotel types. You have your economy, which is your Motel 6, your Econo Lodges, and their lobbies aren't much bigger than my desk behind me. Throw a key to a customer, they throw it back. The second type is select service, and these are the easiest to run and the most profitable. Why? These are like your Hilton Gardens, your Marriott Courtyards, because people think they're in food and beverage, but they're not. The front desk has a little kitchenette, but every morning they put out a nice buffet, granola and yogurt, and they'll put a waffle iron so that you think it's custom, and they have microwave scrambled eggs sitting out there, but it works perfect. And by noon, they're done. There's no more F&B overhead and hassle with that. So then the third type of hotel is what's called full service. That's your Hiltons, Hyatts, Marriotts, and you'll see them in the suburbs and like the Marriott Airport, suburban, urban, and so on. And you know what you're going to get? Very good franchises, 3 meals a day. They serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's mostly real business, and transients are there for one night, 24 hours, and they're gone. And then the fourth is the hardest to run. It's called full service resort, full
Hmm.
service resort. And the reason it's the hardest to run, BJ, is because there's many points of disappointment that can occur. Let me explain. They come in, our average stay is it's 4 occupants per room, could be husband and wife, 2 children. That's the average. And the average stay is 3 days. So they're at your pool, you better wow them there. You better wow them at the pool bar. Then they go down to the beach. So there's many points where they can say, oh, the valet didn't get my car quick enough. The bellhop didn't get me to the room fast enough. With all that, we are number one in TripAdvisor in every market we serve. Now, why is that important? Forbes 5 stars nice, Condé Nast is nice, but TripAdvisor is the voice of the guest, the voice of
Hmm.
the guest. I know for myself, Sue and I went to Hawaii for our anniversary this year, and the first thing I did is, I won't mention the names, but we checked into the Hilton Hawaiian Village and it was not up to snuff. So, because that's where we were for our honeymoon. So I looked on TripAdvisor and the Hale Kalani was rated number one. I called, I said, Sue, don't unpack anything. You didn't want to put anything on the carpet here. And I said, I called them. They said, no, there's no room at the inn. I said, stay here. I'm going to jump in an Uber. It's only 3 miles away. Jumped in the Uber and was able to lovingly persuade them to give us a room. And so, and it was well deserved, and they're number one on TripAdvisor, and we loved it. And so that's Icona in a nutshell, and Mahalo. Now, there's only one harder to run. I gave you the four types. Let's go back quick. Economy, select service, full service resort. There's only one
Can
hotel type harder to run, full
can I
service
guess?
resort, seasonal. And the reason it's the hardest to run is because, and that's why there's no flag down
Workforce.
here of the Hilton Hyatt Marriott's, because they don't want a full service resort seasonal. In other words, in the summer months, we have 1,200 team members. Right now, we have 275.
Yeah.
You surge and purge. We have to hire and train 700 to 800 new people every single year. It's a gargantuan effort. Had I not had the background and training in our automotive side of the business, we trained 4,000 dealerships. So by the grace of God, I already had that down. Now,
Mm.
normally I wouldn't tell you this on a podcast, but since it's you, BJ, I'll tell you. And there's not that many more that we're looking for. We've had private equity companies come to me and say, Eustace, we'll do 100 hotels, we'll back you, so on and so forth. We're not interested in that. Why? Because our model is what I call similar to what Warren Buffett likes. Warren Buffett famously said that he likes businesses that have a moat built around them. For example, he owns Gillette, big moat. Yeah, you
Yep.
have Harry's and some electric shaves, but Gillette owns the business. Number two, he owns and has one of his longest stocks has been Coca-Cola. Why? You got Pepsi, and that's really it. And so
Right.
he likes a moat. Achristavest, we'll get to that in a minute. The home builder, we like to tongue-in-cheek say we are the builder to billionaires. Why? Our house in Deer Valley was a spec. We sold it to Fred Smith, founder, chairman, and CEO of Federal Express. And I remember Fred, he's from Memphis, Texas. Now he's a multi-billionaire. Why would he buy a spec home? He walks in, he looks around, and he says in that accent, he says, Eustace, I've never seen detail like this in my life. And so he bought our house, a spec house. We sold another spec house on 75th Street in Avalon to John Middleton, who owns the Phillies. Now,
Mm.
either one of them could have bought land and built their own house. But at Achristavest, we call it the Achrista Sizzle, and they can only get it with us. We have such a passion for what we do. And so going back to ICONA, we have a moat where Fred Smith or John Middleton could not compete with us. And you say, what do you mean by that, Eustace? Well, you happen to know this, BJ, but not everybody does. If you want to stay on the beach in Avalon or Stone Harbor, you're staying at Icona. Period.
Yep.
End of story. And if somebody wanted to compete with us, regardless of even Elon Musk, well, he's crazy, so you never know, but in a good way, I mean, I love Elon. But I think, first of all, you couldn't get the zoning. Second of all, you'd have to buy an entire block in Avalon and knock the houses down. So now you're over 150 million into the ground and you haven't built the hotel yet. So
Yeah.
it'd be very difficult. So we do have a moat. And the reason that we rejected the private equity with 100 hotels is because, we don't want to go out and buy 100 select service hotels or full service hotels because every Tom, Dick, and Harry can build one next to you. Nobody
Right.
can build next to us, BJ.
No competitive advantage.
Yeah. So how many beachfront hotels are in Avalon Stone Harbor? Two. We own them. You know how many there are in Diamond Beach? One. There was two. We converted. We knocked it down and built a condominium. There's one. You know how many there are in now Cape May? There's more. There's like 8 or 9, but we own two of the 9, and we're very happy with that.
Yeah.
Very happy with that. So that's the Icona Mahalo story in a nutshell. But ask me anything more specific or a Christovest or
Let's hit a Christovest because a Christovest is where I first met you. You kind of were you did the Diamond Beach condo property. I think that was like '05-ish. I met you
correct.
at Natalie and Julie's graduation when I was on mid-tour leave. This is how far back the relationship goes, everybody. '06.
And
And
by
he's
the
been
way, not to get political, but Ben Carson was the speaker at the
keynote.
graduation, and I never heard of Ben Carson. All five of our children have graduated college, three Boston College, two Loyola, and the only speaker that I can remember was Ben Carson. He was that good. So, guys and gals out there, Google it, look it up. Commencement exercise. In what year was that, BJ?
'06.
Oh six, yeah.
Loyola,
Ben
Loyola,
Carson,
Baltimore.
Loyola Baltimore. Give
Before
a
it was Loyola University, it was still Loyola College back then.
yeah, yeah. Great stuff.
Um, Achristavest. That that was your, and I want to go back because you hit on the automotive training, and I know that you started in the automotive industry. Um, but Achristavest was your pivot into real estate, and I think you were a pioneer in luxury real estate, and maybe I would call it luxury flipping at first down the shore. Is that a fair description?
I think it's very fair. There were other builders and other developers, but nobody focused on two categories, beach to bay, beach and bay, not beach to bay. We
Right.
used to say beach and bay is the only way. And then when I got killed in 2008 on the bay, I said, forget the bay. If you're going to reach, stay on the beach. But we were back to developing. Matter of fact, we have a couple going up in Ocean City and Avalon right now on the bay. But yeah, it's a very risky part of the business. I'll give you a quick example. Well, let me tell you why we started Achristavest. My two loves all my life, I've been very blessed and fortunate to know what they are. And when I'm advising people, I say, try to find your passion. I was lucky, BJ. I knew from the time I was a baby, I loved cars. And the only thing I like better than the smell of a new car is the smell of a new home. And so I remember I wasn't even in the business then, but I'd be taking the kids to Wawa, and my children are your age and some older, and I'd say, "All right, now hold on a second, we're going to stop at this model home." "Oh, Dad, come on!" I'd say, "No, no, no, we got to go in and see." Then it got to the point where they wouldn't come in, so I said, "All right, wait in the car. I'm going to jump in let me just jump in here real quick and take a fast tour." And so we'd get home, and Susie'd be like, "Where were you? Dad made us go through this model home." But I fell in love with model homes, and the seashore has always been my place of peace. Now, when in our automotive business, we were in 19 countries, including France, Italy, Spain. Beautiful places, beautiful beaches. The beaches still don't compare in size or the granularity of the sand that we have in Cape May County. And people who have never been outside of Cape May County don't know it. To me, BJ, we lived in Dallas for a couple of years, Chicago for a couple of years, New York, New Jersey. And I think the greatest secret of beaches is in Cape May County from Longport to Cape May. Magnificent, just, big. And the other thing is, even if you get in the ferry, Cape May Lewis, and you go to Delaware, Maryland, which I also love, but they have a huge drop. I'm a lifetime swimmer too. They have a
Yeah.
huge drop. And I saw a woman in Ocean City, Maryland, body surfing, came down and broke her femur in half because whereas in Cape May County, we could walk out a mile and still only be in 20, 25 feet of water.
Yeah.
So we just love the area. And then I've just always loved beach and bay. So we started to build houses under a name called Avista Properties. My wife Susie made it up, who's a very nice girl once you get to know her. If Susie's listening, I love you, hon. And so something happened to me in 2006, and I changed the name to Achristavest. And so it's interesting. So we were building homes. I spent the first 20 years of my life, 90% automotive, 10% real estate. And now I spent the last 30 years of my life in real estate. If I had to do it all over again, I would have made automotive my hobby and been in hotels and home building my entire career. And it's not
Yeah.
a regret. I'm just saying if I changed anything, that would be the change.
Talk to us about the change that happened in '06. I think it's worth going there.
Okay. I didn't know if you were going to
I
be this
I
gutsy,
I
but
do.
every year since 1985, when I was a young pup, and I have it in this drawer here, I started writing goals down in four categories, every between Christmas and New Year's that week. And the four categories were my financial goals, meaning what I wanted to make that year, what I want my net worth to be, what I wanted the worth of the company to be. Number two, relationship goals, my top 20 relationships, starting with my family, my wife, my children, how much time I was going to spend with them, like my daughters. I wanted to have a father-daughter dinner, which I did up until they got married, and I think I'm going to restart that again. And then, my top 20 business relationships, and for me back then, it would have been like Roger Penske, still is, um, and some other business relationships, some boards that I was on. And then, so that's financial relationship and then physical, and I would call it health goals today. what I want my weight to be. And, every year I'd increase the goal. So I want to work out twice a week. After 7 years, I'm working out 7 days a week. And then I'd say, what do I want to do in the workout? Aerobics, strength training. And then, so that's physical and health. And also what I wanted to eat. I read a book called Fit for Life back then. And that really changed me in the 80s. Fruit till noon, vegetables after that. And then we get into, what I say, we already hit financial.
Financial, relationship, physical, health.
Right. And then spiritual goals. And I kind of put it like this. Our friend Jim Rohn told me once, if you want to be healthy, you got to have a health plan. And I say, look at the goals. Financial. If you want to be wealthy, you got to have a wealth plan. Go to your spiritual. If you want to get close to God, you have to have a get close to God plan. So in '06, I'm doing my spiritual and get close to God plan. And it's in the Catholic Church, we have a thing called adoration. So you're sitting in front of the Blessed Sacrament. I'm there alone, but I got my book because that's where I like to set my goals. And when I pray, I talk to God like I'm talking to you. I
Yep.
also go through the rote, the Hail Mary and whatnot, but I'm like, hey God, listen, I really want to get closer and so on and so forth. And, I want to make sure that I'm double tithing and so on and what have you. And I said, but you know what? You got to admit, Lord, I'm a pretty good businessman. And I'm telling you, just like that, you got to watch the humility. Just like that, I heard a voice. I don't get locution. I heard, oh, you think you're a good businessman? Well, let me ask you a question. If you were born to Michael Jordan's parents, you think you could play basketball like Michael Jordan? I'm there like, I don't think so. This is going on in my head. Well, if you were born to Tiger Woods' parents, you think you could play golf like Tiger Woods? I'm going, I don't think so. So then I hear him say, well, then don't think of any business acumen you have has anything to do with you. It's a gift from me, just like the talents. I've given you X talents, and I need a return on those talents. So from that point on, that literally that day on, I changed the name of Avista Properties to Achristavest, meaning Achristavest. The best investment I've ever made in my life in any way, shape, and form is my investment in my relationship with our Lord Jesus Christ. And so I wanted to remind myself of that. So I put it in the middle of the name, Achristavest. Now, interestingly enough, those signs got knocked down, got broken in half, and it happened so many times. And I've been in down the shore all my life. I was baptized in St. Paul's in Stone Harbor. So I have friends in Ocean City. So I set up some cameras across from where I was building some homes on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? I found the guy who was doing it.
Really?
Yeah, found the guy who was doing it. Guy my age had a thriving business. I won't get into names or what the business was, but obviously he did not like that name.
Wow.
And so I went to him one on one and I said, brother, he said, how can I help you? He happened to be in my business too. So that I'm sure had something to do with it. And I said, yeah, I said, somebody's been knocking my signs down and breaking them half. He goes, you're kidding. I said, no. He says, do you have any idea who it is? I said, yes, you. And he says to me, he goes, I don't know, who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. I said, brother, stop. I could have come here with the police. I didn't. I said, I just want to let you know. And I said, I have it on film. So let's stop playing games. Now, what I want you to do is to reimburse me for the signs that you broke or whatever you did with them. I said, I'm not going to call the police. He's a guy my age, had a very thriving business. And I just forgave him, which I'm not, was that good or it doesn't matter. I get it out of my own mind. So guess what? 2 weeks later, instead of a check, he drops all those broken signs on a job site I had. Not smart.
Wow.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Like he's that well known. If this got into the news, it'd be a police record. If he got into the newspapers, it would have wrecked him, wrecked his reputation. But I just called him up and I said, brother, those signs are now in a dumpster. If I was you, I'd have a check in my, I mean, if that was me 15 years ago, I just would have called the cops and had them
Yeah.
arrested. But because of the journey, the faith journey, when you talk about spiritual goals, BJ, that we've both been on, I said, this is a better way to handle it.
Yeah.
But there's your short story on the name of Christovest. We are, as far as I know, the largest developer of oceanfront homes, not just in Cape May County, but I believe in the state of New Jersey. Now, there's some other builders, but I don't know. In '08, when Armageddon hit, there was probably four or five of us. I mean, it was Armageddon. I've been through four recessions in my life. Jimmy Carter, 1980, I was just a young pup. Interest rates 19, 20%. Then 1991, the S&L crisis. Then 2000, the dot-com crisis, bomb crisis.
Yeah.
And then in 2008, and that was by far the worst. None of those other three combined could come close to what happened in
That,
'08.
that was when I was getting ready to get out of the army and I came to see you and I was like, hey, I want to get into development. You're like, run.
Right, run. It's
Don't do
because,
it.
well, exactly. And at Christovest, unlike a Toll Brothers or KHAV, Christovest, we're a second home builder. So when
Yeah.
it all hit the fan in 2008, home sales went down by 50%. You got to let that sink in. That's not 5%. So a second home at the shore is a want, not a need. So what's the first thing when you panic? You cut out your
Totally.
wants and just stay with your needs. And so our sales didn't slow down. They stopped, literally stopped dead. And
Yeah.
we just hung on. I don't even know how, but we hung on by a thread and one foot in front of the other. And so now the other four competitors are gone. I don't know anybody else who's doing spec homes on the beach.
Yeah. You've weathered some storms.
We have.
Uh, while we're on both building and faith, you find time to be on Anne the Lay Apostles board and the Papal Foundation, and you've got some pretty aggressive capital projects, I think, associated with those two. Talk to us about those construction projects and those roles that you have.
Yeah. So as is always, our cup runneth over, BJ. And so Andalay Apostle, and we bought an abbey from the Norbertine um, order that was sadly had some abuse surrounding it. So that is a $16 million project. We've already knocked it down. That's in County Cabinet in Ireland, and I'm the chair of that. And then we're also doing the Padre Pio Center in Bartow, Pennsylvania, and that's going to be a $25 million capital campaign. We're chairing that as well. But the biggest of all is Our Lady of Kibeho in Rwanda. And we were hoping to bring that in at a couple hundred million. To give you a background, whether you know about the Catholic Church or not, there's basically seven approved apparition sites in the world. The huge ones: Our Lady of Lourdes,
Mm-hmm.
which is in France, Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico, Our Lady of Fatima in Portugal. So Kibeho, which is where the terrible genocide, Rwanda, the genocide in 1994 happened. In 1981, Our Lady appeared. Medjugorje is another one that hasn't been approved yet, but and that started in the 80s too. But Kibeho, they've done all the investigation in the Vatican and said, yes, this is a true apparition site. And it's the only one of the seven that does not have a cathedral basilica built. And so it'll be the first approved apparition site that we know of in the whole continent of Africa. So that's
Wow.
going to be a $500 million project. Yeah, and I've got to raise the funds for it. So BJ, if you could help a brother, after we have this interview, I'll call you directly. But yeah, so that will be the epitome
Somebody listening is that's how I'm going to help you. Somebody listening is going
of
to
somebody
be
listening.
yeah.
And that's the epitome of fundraising. We were the chairman of development when we brought the Pope to Philadelphia. That was a $45 million raise, but that pales in comparison to what
Half a
we're talking
billion.
about here at Kibeho.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's what we have going on in the philanthropic part of our life. And then we have three other companies. We have Caritas, which is a commercial construction company. We build apartment buildings. We're in the midst of we're going to build a Harley Davidson dealership out on Route 202.
That's cool.
Yeah, we have apartments. We're doing we're doing a job for Temple Hospital. And so that's been a great company for us. And as you might remember, uh, it, we have a program I call it ICONA Means Business, where we tell whether you have a business of 3 people, 30 people, 3,000, 30,000. If you want to grow your business geometrically, you've got to follow these three criteria. Number one, you have to have an annual leadership retreat. Notice I didn't say meeting. Annual leadership retreat, preferably in the beginning months, beginning quarter of the year, where you take your leadership team out of their own environment. And I learned this when we train dealerships. They say, we have great training rooms, and it was like, oh, the sales manager needs me, F and I, I'm out of here.
Yep.
So we said, never again. If you want this training, it's going to happen in the nearest hotel to your dealership, but we're going to go there. So these lessons I learned, I say, people die, but good business principles go on forever and ever and ever. And so we follow these principles. Annual leadership retreat. If you want to grow your business geometrically, number one. Number two, you got to get out of your own environment and go to a place of peace. What's more peaceful than a hotel on the water, BJ?
Amen.
And we say, and then the third thing is you got to go over your vision, your mission, and your goals with your leadership team. Now, it's actually an easy sell because 80% of companies, give or take, don't have such a retreat. I've talked to some companies, big Fortune 500s that now come to one of our Iconas and have the retreat. And the way we got them is they'd say to me, well, we have this, we're multi-billion-dollar companies. We have a training room here. I said, well, do me a favor, bring in 3 people who, if they know your vision, mission, and goals. So I won't mention names because everybody knows them, but he brings the 3 in. What's your vision? What's your mission? What's your goals? Just like I said, Icona. And that's why we don't just train once a quarter, but this is our culture card at Icona. We have another one for Achristavest. And we say, miss a meal, do not miss Aloha training. And everything we train for our culture. See, I've read hundreds of books, BJ, and I say, and I have a card here for you. I say there's 3 things. This is my own personal philosophy. And since I just turned 70, hard for me to believe, I wanted to make sure my grandchildren and children got this. So I say there's 3 things that are going to change you from who you are today to who you're going to be tomorrow. The books you read, because people put their lifetime into it. I just finished Elon Musk by Isaacson. Interesting book. The
Hmm.
books you read, the people you meet, the goals you set and achieve. And I say there's 7 books. I've read hundreds, and I tell my children, grandchildren, and other companies where I've given talks, there's 7 books you must read. Okay. And then I also have up here, wherever you are, be there, because we're all attracted, BJ, to distractions. This is the greatest distraction that was ever invented. Yes, there's pros to it, because if you need an answer, you don't have to look it up. You go pop, 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 Google it, and you
Right.
have it. However, the cons, in my opinion, now outweigh the pros because it kills relationships, whether it's marriage, whether it's, pornography is at your fingertips, which is addictive, is drugs and alcohol. But I don't want to get into that right now. So the books you read, the people you meet, the goals you set and achieve. People talk about setting goals. It's not just set them, you got to set them and achieve them. And then you move on. But I've been doing this since 1985. And the other thing I tell them is everybody has unique ability. God gave us all unique talents. Discover what your unique ability is. Discover what, let me tell you why that's important. We lived in Chicago, I traveled a lot. And at O'Hare, this is before TSA. And Henry David Thoreau had a saying, and he was on this wall when I came down the escalator and said, many men live lives of quiet desperation. Many men live lives of quiet desperation. And I added my own end to that, BJ. I put a tail on it. I said, yes, many men live lives of quiet desperation in jobs they hate and in
Yeah.
relationships that are suffocating them.
Hmm.
You see? So I say you got to get more specific on everything you do in life. And then I say, once you've discovered your unique ability, like somebody says, Eustace, I get, my son, my daughter, would you mind just spending a little time with them? They don't know what they want to do. And this is what I tell them. Everybody's got a unique ability. Work on discovering it. Number 2, once you work on it, focus on it. Focus on your definite purpose in life. And then
Napoleon Hill.
I tell them number 3, whatever you focus on will multiply your energy tenfold. Focus, 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 focus. And then I always teach in threes because I discovered that when we come out, first of all, there's so many distractions. So people only give you a little mind space. So I limit it to threes, no matter how important it is. I say there's only three things you need to be part of Team Icona. One, passion for people. Two, heart for hospitality. Three, realize that hospitality to us is a ministry. But that's the what. Like Coca-Cola gives you the what. Their mission statement is we change the world. Now, come on, your sugar, your sugar water that has a color added to it, and you have an addictive substance called caffeine. But are you really changing the world? See, the problem with that is you can't get your truck drivers who drive the Coke to like really dig into your mission. So we
Right.
want to make sure the dishwashers dig into it, that the GMs dig into it. So we say, we don't just give them the what, passion for people, that's the what. But why do you have any passion? Because we're in the people loving business. And if you don't love people, you're in the wrong business. Number two, we say you have to have a heart for hospitality. Why? Because in the big book, because people don't like me talking about God, in the big book, our Lord said, the highest form of love is to serve. And that's what we do. We put the heads on beds, we serve you food, we serve you drink with love. And the third thing is we say hospitality to us is a ministry. Words
Mm.
paint pictures. So I say, nobody likes the word work. We don't have work, we have a vocation. And we say, your vacation is our vocation. And see, so these things, I try to rhyme them, make them easy for people to remember, but they're all in here. They're all in here. And every Tuesday we go over it. Why do we go over it every Tuesday? Because repetition is a foundation of learning. Let's go back to the threes. What happens when you come out of the womb? Your parents go over nursery rhymes, the three little bears, the three blind mice, poor things, and the three little pigs. And then you get into grade school. What is it? One, two, three, ABC. So those are the things, the foundation that we've built all our culture training on. You're a CEO. If I'm going to give a CEO advice, which I think I can because I'm a CEO, but not because I'm that smart. But I've had 40 years of we have 5 businesses now: Achristavest, ICONA, Caritas, Interiors by Joanne, and Rendell Associates, which does fit out in big office buildings and that type of thing. And so, again, we have a card like this for Christovest. Now, Christovest has it different. We call ourselves the dream makers. How are we
Mm.
dream makers? We're building the house of your dreams. And the difference between us and another builder is that we take the outside environment. We start with the view sheds in Beach and Bay, and then we build the house around it. And we're never satisfied. Architects we use, they come back, look at the house after it's built and go, wow, that doesn't look like the house I drew. Well, that's exactly right. We might move a window. We might take a window that has a 24-inch sill and say, wait, we're losing view shed, put an 18-inch sill in there. We may look at a bathroom. They drew the toilet when you first walked in. No, you don't want to see a toilet when you first walk in. We'll put a pocket door to save on space. So we are constantly improving, 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 improving.
There's a rumor that you tore out a whole set of kitchen cabinets in a luxury place because you just didn't think it felt right.
That's exactly right. We just did the thing with granite counters that I felt the same way about. And people say, you know what, that may be nuts. Well, it may be nuts, but we never stop. That's what we call the Christosizzle. Okay, we do little things like in the plywood, they'll glue them to the trusses and then they nail them. We go, glue and screw. And that came from my own experience. The first house I built in 1985, we still lived there until 2 years ago. And BJ, after 3 years, I walk in and I hear on the floor, and I'm like, why are these floors squeaking? So I pulled up, our wood floor and I looked at the subfloor and the nails pop. So I don't
Mm.
care how good you are, the nails are always going to pop. So we screw them in. So I'm not going to tell you everything because I know we're in a public forum here. And with your casting, I'm sure there's 3-4 million followers that are watching this. So I'm just giving you a little bit of the
I,
Christicism.
I love the taste.
Yep. So the
Leave,
books you
leave them
read,
wanting more.
people you meet, your goals you set and achieve. And then, the other thing I tell them is words paint pictures. 3 things, BJ. Words paint pictures. Always keep them positive. Music stirs the soul. Always keep it upbeat. What do I mean by that? Well, one of the books I read, remember the books you read? It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joe Murphy. I read that book in the 80s. And what Joe Murphy said is in music, you think like, you think you're just listening to the beat, but the lyrics are going from your conscious to your subconscious. So when you're listening to that rap, hate your mother, kill your father, and that type of thing, it's actually going into your subconscious mind. And they have found this is directly related to suicides as well, that negative music. So words paint pictures, always keep them positive, whether you're talking to each other like you and I, BJ, or whether you're talking to yourself. Music stirs the soul, keep it upbeat. And lastly, water soothes the soul. Get in it, get on it, or get near it whenever you can. And that's our motto, and that's our philosophy. And that's why it's hard for me to say I'm 70 because I don't feel that way at all. And
You
people
don't
say,
look it either.
yeah, and people say, why haven't you retired? I said, and do what? Play golf? I said, people are passionate about golf. I mean, I've been a golf member for 35 years. I haven't played 35 rounds at a Running. Why? Because I'm passionate about what I do. I love building houses. I love walking the frames. I love, building hotels. I love seeing guest experience get better and better and better. I can't help it. When I lose the passion, then I'll retire. I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to happen. I think I'll go out in one of these hotels or homes. I'll be like Weekend at Bernie's, they'll just put me on a platter and take me out of the place. And that's
I,
fine.
I'm going to skip the automotive industry because it was, I think it was formidable for you, but I think we touched a little bit on it. I do want to jump into, if we may,
Yeah, we have about what, 15 minutes left.
yeah, um, leadership in the built environment is really, I think, difficult. You're coordinating all kinds of stakeholders, and you in particular, as a developer in these quaint shore towns, have no lack of challenges. Um, and you continuously impress me with how you stay composed. You never get ruffled. You maintain your passion. You're currently you dealt with the um, the windmills down
Yes,
there.
that was a big victory.
It was.
Big victory.
And now you are navigating what to do with the Wonderland Pier site in Ocean City. Um, how do you maintain your composure as a leader in environments where maybe you're not welcome or you're not loved for not you, but for your idea or your project?
I think that's a great question, BJ. And I think we can go as far as to say it's a hostile environment.
All right, I'll
Okay.
agree.
Yeah. So
Second only to Iraq.
exactly. But what you find out, and I found this out in life, is a couple of things. First of all, uh, here's how I remain calm. I just went over the goals. So every morning I have a physical workout.
Hmm.
7 days, don't miss it. Some more strenuous than others. Whether it's weight training or swimming, I try to swim 2 miles a week. I used to run 5+ miles a day, but after 35 years that I got degenerative disc disease. But I still do strength training. For example, this morning was an aerobic day, so I did the bike, I did the treadmill, I did the elliptical. And so what gives me peace though is my spiritual workout, and that's every day, mass every day. And it just calms me down, and I realize what's important in life. So, in challenging situations like ICONA and Wonderland, you really find out that the most vocal people are what I call the haters and the screamers. And uh, I can tell you, Ocean City in particular, there's always pros and cons to development for the community and everything else. I
Right.
can't think of one con. As a matter of fact, the big four we knocked down in a heartbeat. The first one that everybody screamed about was, you know, um, Icona's going to come in here and they're going to bring liquor and we don't have liquor. And I'm like, went wrong. Our laws in Ocean City trump the state. So no liquor. Number two, well, Mita's going to come in here and he's going to build this high rise. Wrong. The two hotels there, the Flounders and the Portico, are 9 stories. We're going to be 8 stories. A building one block over from us, the Gardens Plaza is 15 stories. All right. Number three was the parking is going to be horrific. Wrong. Wonderland today on a normal Saturday gets 3,000 people. We'll have at the most with 250 rooms, 4 occupants, that's 1,000 people. So we'll have 2/3 less of people. Wonderland has zero parking. We'll have 375 spots. And last but not least, if we let Icona do it, everybody's going to do it. Wrong. Why in America's greatest family resort hasn't there been one hotel proposed in over half a century? The last new hotel was Portugal in 1965. Why? It's very,
Go back to where we started.
yeah, back to where we started.
Seasonal luxury hotels are full
Ex-
service.
Yeah, there are
They
two.
don't
We didn't,
underwrite.
you can't, no, nobody under, you can't get a bank. I don't even know why you get a hard money lender to underwrite it, you know? But here's what I know, BJ. If we didn't have the eight hotels, I wouldn't be doing it because it'll lose money for 10 years and they're going to have to support it. But the entire, when they talk about save Wonderland, no, how about save Ocean City? How about save the boardwalk?
Yeah.
The number one revenue generator in all of Cape May County and certainly Ocean City is what? Tourism. The number one supported tourism is what? Hotel rooms. Okay. We lost 70% of our hotel rooms in Ocean City in the last 30 years. Now, people, cry wolf or said, oh, that's, media doesn't know what he's talking about. So, you know what we did, BJ? We did the research ourselves. We found those 70% of hotels, what street they're on, name them, and I put together a whole presentation and had how many rooms were them. So now people are starting, whoa, maybe he's right. And the transient customer is the best customer is. We live down there. How many
Yep.
times do you think we go to the boardwalk? Twice I take my grandkids there. When you're in a hotel, you're there for 3 days. When you rent a house, even you go to the Acme and ShopRite and you stock up and you barbecue. And maybe you'll go to Mac and Manco's one night. But when you're transient, you're there for 3 days. You're there. I got to go to Mac and Manco's. I got to go to Playland and get on the rides. I got to play mini golf. So that is the lifeblood of tourism. And we're dying so slowly, we think we're living. We're dying so slowly, we think we're living.
Hmm.
Now, when I was born, Avalon's boardwalk started at 8th Street, went to 31st Street. Now it's 21st to 31st. It had arcades and restaurants. No arcades, no restaurants. Had a movie theater, no movie theater. Why? Because people ask me, where'd the 70% go? Here's where they went. Number one, mom and pop bought them in the 30s and 40s. Because think about this, the Barrier Islands are only a little over 100 years old.
Right.
There was no highways until Eisenhower in the 50s and 60s built the interstate highway system. So, they were hard to get to. So these places, 30s, 40s, mom and pop buy a piece of ground for 5, 10,000, put up a 50-room hotel motel. Well, now they're worth 5, 6 million, but not as hotel motel,
Right.
as homes. So that all that hotel motel stock is gone. The second way, which is very difficult too, is when they turn them into condotels. Nothing wrong with a condotel, but these buildings were only built with a lifespan of 30 to 40 years. They didn't have the stringent requirements of cement and rebar ratios that we have today. They're literally falling into the ground. There's one on 34th Street called Sea Spray, which has been condemned because you got 34 owners of condos. Nobody can agree on anything. So we're going to see more and more of that. So if anything, I said to myself, I made a mistake. We should have done like Amazon, like Tesla does, like Apple does, and say, hey, you know what? We're going to build a beautiful, magnificent hotel in Cape May County. Who wants it? We'll let you bid on it. Here, why would you bid on it?
Yeah.
Instead, no, I'm an Ocean City guy. I'm going to build this hotel like an idiot. But I really think the climate has changed because we've educated the public. We
Yeah.
right out there. The haters, I said, come on. I had to wear a flak jack, and as you're familiar with, I got some
Well, a-
BJ's Iraqi gear.
as a homeowner and a taxpayer, I'm cheering for you down there.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, so that's
Uh,
it.
one more leadership question, and then a couple of rapid fire.
Sure.
You you jump up to the strategic view of boards, Papal Foundation, Penske, and I've seen you on a phone call about a specific detail in a specific address on a specific block in Ocean City. How do you balance kind of tactical leadership and strategic leadership?
That's a great question. I think it's a couple of things. It's time, it's making mistakes, and it's being voraciously curious. Like I'm curious, who does it the best? That's why I read Elon Musk's, which is like War and Peace, same as Steve Jobs' book, and see what little nugget can I take from them? Can I take from them? But I think to get down, the boards, I'm all at 50,000 feet. You go in, I mean, being a board member of a public company is the greatest deal in the world. You go in, you give your opinion, you get paid a couple $100,000. They fly you back and forth on a private jet, and then you don't have to do any execution. But on the technical level, you have to. You've heard me on a phone call. I might be talking about a baseboard size, or I may be talking about a ceiling. I may be talking about a wall, um, and so on and so forth, or windows. Why we go with the Anderson 400s instead of the Anderson 200s, and why didn't we go a Colby instead of a Pella, and so on and so forth. And I think the only answer for that is passion. I have such a passion for it, and I'm blessed that way. So
Yeah.
the people who aren't in the details like that, they don't have a passion. But that is more of a gift, I think. When I see Penske's the same way. He'll be up there. He's got a $50 billion company, and he's still in the pit calling the tires and the wheels and so on and so forth. So that's more of a gift. But once you have it, then you got to keep digging it, because if you don't use it, you will lose it. If I don't keep walking the frames, if Achristavest, we're doing our Achristavest means business this year in Las Vegas. I'm taking the whole team out there. Well, we're going to have our leadership. Remember, I told you annual
Yep.
leadership. Go to a place of peace. Vegas is not that peaceful, but I'm going to we'll all walk through the home builder show. That's how I found Zipboard years ago. That's how I found Blueskin. It wasn't even here 12 years ago. And I was so impressed with it. I ripped off all the siding on my house in Ocean City to the tune of 250,000, just so I could put Blueskin back on. That's how impressed I was with it. So,
Wow.
you got to have that curiosity, keep learning, and love what you're doing. And the minute I lose the passion, BJ, that's when I'm going to retire.
Fair
And
enough.
hopefully my health stays with me.
I, I'm,
So far, so good.
I hope so too. I think you're doing a good job controlling the controllables.
That's a great way to put it. Thank you, BJ.
Um, all right, some rapid fire questions. You
Yes.
said seven books, so I'm going to have to ask you all seven. I usually ask for most gifted book or favorite, but you've got seven.
I'm
What?
not going to give you all seven, because I
All
want
right.
you can have me back for two or three of them.
All
But I'll
right.
give you a couple. Okay. Number one, how to win friends and influence people. The reason everybody at ICONA wears a name tag, BJ, is because my father saw me in a fight in a fifth grade schoolyard. He brought me a book home that night, and he said, "Eustace, I noticed you didn't have a lot of friends. I think this will help you." That book changed my life, BJ. It changed my life. And that's where I learned that the sweetest sound to a person's ears is the sound of their own name. So I don't have it on today because I'm in our Chester office, but I wear a name tag that says Eustace. I had a chairman of one of these Fortune 500 companies say to me, "Eustace, what are you doing with the name tag? Everybody knows who you are. You're the chairman. What do you?" I say, "You know why? Because you got to walk the talk." And I said, "We have 1,200 team members. I don't know all their names, but I said, I learned it's the sweetest sound to a person's ears, sound of their own name. That's why we're name tags." What else did I learn in that book? The greatest craving of the human heart is appreciation. So we make sure that we appreciate all our people and tell them. The other thing I learned in that book is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Now, when you have to, you have a team member that you think you can rehab and not fire, then people say you have to criticize them. Remember, I told you words paint pictures? I say, no, you don't. Take the word criticize out, put it in the trash, and put the word coaching in. It goes down. It's like a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. So books you read, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Second book, I'll give you, As a Man Thinketh.
Mm.
As you think, so shall you become. If you think thoughts of negative and darkness, then you're going to experience negative and darkness. If you think thoughts of light and optimism, then you're going to experience light and optimism. Another book I read, Think and Grow Rich, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, you know what's interesting, BJ? That book is how I got together with Penske, because I read when I was 17 years old. And my aunt Peg O'Neill gave me that book, and I ripped the cover off it because, being a young Catholic, I didn't want anybody to think I wanted to get rich. You're not supposed to want to get rich. But Edwin Barnes said, "I'm going to go to work for Thomas Edison." And I didn't even remember that fact till I did it. 7 years later, I wrote a letter to Roger Penske saying, "I want to be a car dealer. You're the best. I want to learn from the best." I did the same thing Edwin Barnes did. So at 24 years old, I learned I always go to the top. If I want to talk to a subcontractor, I don't care how big the company is, I go to the president. Why? Because if I come in, you're the CEO, and one of you, give me a name of any one of your people, just first name.
Jesse.
Jesse comes in and says, BJ, you got to meet this guy, Eustace Mita, man. I think this guy's really going to be able to help it. I don't have time to meet Eustace Mita. You go, just get back to work. But if you say to Jesse, hey, Jesse, I want you to meet this guy, Eustace Mita, you think Jesse's going to meet Eustace Mita?
Yep.
So lesson learned, always go to the top. Okay. The books you read, the people you meet. So you see how those two books changed my life? And you see how no matter how fast tech is, people die, good business principles, good life principles. As a matter of fact, we say, you saw the culture card. We say, you know what? This stuff works at home.
Yeah.
Every principle we're teaching you works at home. And then I'll give you the one book. If somebody says to me, I can only read one book, I only got time for one book. I'm not even going to give you the Bible because I have Bible ADD. People don't understand Genesis and whatever. But if you don't, read the book of Sirach. But let me just tell you this. The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. That book turned me around, 10 scrolls. And you know what's interesting, BJ? When people, I'll say to them, "Oh, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People." Say, "Great. Give me one nugget you got out of it." The one about, okay.
Yeah.
I read Think and Grow Rich. Give me one nugget. Well, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And I'm not making fun. There's 10 scrolls written over 2,000 years ago. I'll just give you a couple. Scroll number one is, today I begin a new life. Today I will shed my old skin, which has too long suffered the bruises of failure and the wounds of mediocrity. Today I'm going to be a new man, and men shall know me not. Procrastination, I'll destroy with action. Doubt, I'll bury under faith. Fear, I'll dismember with confidence. Now, scroll number five, let's scroll number one. Scroll number five, I will live this day as if it is my last. I will think not of yesterday with its broken dreams and promises. For why should I throw good after bad? Can yesterday's sun rise today where it rose yesterday? No. Can the sun set? No. Yesterday, with its broken dreams and promises, is gone, and I will think of it no more. I will live this day as if it's my last. Now, am I telling you that because I'm a great memorizer? No. You know how many times I read that book?
How many?
35 times. You know how many times I read How to Win Friends and Influence People? Over 50. You know how many times I read Think and Grow Rich? 17 times. You see, you have to have a maniacal focus. And if you can't just read it once, you can, but
Right.
why can I tell you? See, and you know me, BJ, I've integrated every one of those in my life. What's
It's
on our,
true.
on our yeah, on our Curie cups, it says, I will greet this day with love in my life. That's scroll number two. And how I treat everyone I meet. I will say silently and to myself, I
I
love you,
love you.
I love you, I love you. You got it, BJ. And who can refuse my goods? It feels my love. It will unwrinkle their brow, put a smile on their face. See, this is our culture, and they get it. Okay, this I carry in my pocket. Okay, these are my goals, but nobody will know what they mean but me. But on the one side, I have ICONA, Cape May, and Ocean City, Achristavest, Stone Harbor, Caritas, Rendell, ICONA, Joanne Interiors, Northeast Maryland, Willistown, two projects that are stalled that I want to get moving. And then on this side, I have the values, God, family, business. PMA means positive mental attitude. See how it's in plastic?
Yep.
You'll see in front of my clock, it sits there too. One in my car, one in my pocket. Why? Repetition, repetition. But here's the most important thing. If I'm in an elevator and and people say, well, give it to me quick. Success, give it to me. I say, find your unique ability, focus on it like a maniac. See what it says there? Have a maniacal focus. Focus like a maniac. Like, for example, Icona, 8 hotels. Guess how many of them were for sale? 7. What were the other ones? As a man thinketh. They were in my mind. I said, someday I'm going to, when we knocked on 16 years of knocking on the door to get Icona Avalon, when I first started knocking, we weren't in the hotel business. I was knocking them down building condominiums. Took me so long to get it. By that time, we were in the hotel business, so we kept it as a hotel. So there you go.
All right. I'm
What else
gonna.
do you have?
I got one more. If you could have dinner with three people dead or alive, who would they be?
Besides BJ Kramer? It easy. I'm probably going to have to give you 4 though. Jesus for sure.
Yep.
George Washington, Saint.
Behind me.
Yeah. Ah, what a man. What a man. What a man. What a man. We've only had 2 businessmen running this country. One was George Washington. The other is running it now. And then, okay, but I don't want to have dinner with him. But the second, The second, did I give that to you already?
You,
Yeah,
you gave me Jesus and George Washington, but you're giving me four instead of three. So,
I have to. The third one is Saint Teresa of Avila. Love that lady.
mm,
She was like Mother Cabrini, but earlier. And then the fourth one is my main man, Winston Churchill.
ah,
Winston Churchill. And I'll give you he had so many great sayings, such great, uh, what a great mind that man had. And besides saving an entire country, and he said that success is never final and failure is never fatal. And that's what, when Susie says to me, my wife, what are you doing 70 years old taking risks? I said, listen, failure is never fatal. So if we don't make it, we'll come back. And then, and now my favorite saying of his, BJ, and this is a great one to end on, and you'll appreciate this. When you get to where I am age-wise, Winston Churchill said, when youth departs, may wisdom prove enough.
mm.
So youth has departed, and I'm hoping wisdom is proving enough.
Well, you just shared an hour plus with us, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your wisdom. Um,
My pleasure.
Andy Reid said, "Time's yours." Anything we didn't hit that you want to close us out with?
No, I think I know we went over time, BJ, but I love you and I was looking forward to this and thought we'd have a lot of fun and we did. And you said one of the things legacy wise and what I want is just to be able to help somebody be a better, be the best that they can be. And this is why I put this philosophy and I've given it to my children, grandchildren, and now I use it in talks. And
I
so I think we pretty much handled that. Oh, you'll
believe
get
it.
this one thing I will give you real quick. We don't have to put it in, but I have this on my mirror every morning I wake up. First thing, what am I most grateful for in my life today?
Oh, I love it.
What am I most excited about? What action am I willing to take today that takes courage? Who will I give a word of encouragement, a call, or a note to today? So there you go.
I love it.
I think we got a whole
Eustace,
lot wrapped in this time, BJ. So good for
you're the
you.
best. I can't thank you enough for your friendship and mentorship and taking the time with us, Eus.
My pleasure. Thank you, BJ. God bless. All the best. Keep
God
up the great
bless.
work. You're an inspiration to more people than you know about.
Thanks, my brother.
God bless. Bye bye now.